Thank you so much for tuning in with us today on the Foraker Realty Podcast. We have an awesome guest today, Vince Garman. As you guys know, my goal is to bring a good guest on, and then I want to try to pull all the special things about you out and give it to the audience. Hopefully they'll share it with other agents, and then that's how we grow. I know you don't hold any secrets back.
No, I don't.
We met about, 7 years ago at Berkshire Hathaway?
Yeah, coming up on it. I first remember meeting you January 2018. We did the Buffini Success Class together.
Right. That's what I remember too. Yeah.
With our friend Gail. Did Gail run that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And Earl
Gail
was in there.
Yeah.
Do you still do the Buffini stuff?
A little bit, yeah. We definitely send out house anniversary cards. We try to hit people.
You do Popeyes?
Yeah, a ton of Popeyes. Yeah. We do those a couple times a year. I've been wanting to. Is your mom still working for you? Yeah. So I want to get my mom more so involved with that. My mom's retired, so I'm trying to keep her busy. She likes to just chill at home.
Yeah.
But we hit Popeyes coming up. Last year we did cookies. Yeah, we've done pies the last few years. Mm-hmm. But my son was in the hospital last year with RSV, so that was a nightmare. All Thanksgiving week. Yeah, but all good. So we bumped it back to cookies.
Well, you do almost all your business by referral, right?
100%, yeah. 100%, yeah. We briefly bought leads from Realtor.com last summer for 3 to 6 months. Closed a couple deals from them, but it was just kind of a nightmare. Mm-hmm. I operate my business and how I coach our team is I've been doing a lot of trainings and coachings with a gentleman named Steve Shull. So Steve, he's a throwback dude, old school, played linebacker, played for the Dolphins, played in the Super Bowl. And
that's
he's just
awesome.
Very direct and to the point.
Yeah.
And so he's been coaching agents for a while, and he teamed up with the dude Chris Voss, who wrote Never Split the Difference. Yeah. So he's put out a couple books specific for agents with him.
Is that the flat fee agent? Did you see that? With Chris Voss just put that one out.
Full fee agent?
Full fee, yeah.
Yeah, full fee, yeah. So that's the first book that they wrote together.
Oh, so he wrote that with your coach?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And what Steve operates off of in life, you're one of two things. You're either the favorite or the fool. And so how we operate our business is we like to be the favorite. So
there you go.
Right? Yeah. And I'm sure when I say some of this stuff too, you'll be oh yeah, that makes sense, right? So it's not a sin to lose business. It's a sin to take a long time to lose business. So obviously, you gotta hustle and, figure out hey, number one, is there a deal here? Hey, is this a legitimate buyer or seller? Number two, is there a deal here with me? Or are they just shopping me? So some of those, red flags would be if a buyer's not willing to, share their finances with you, who their mortgage lender is. So that's a red flag going off right there. Mm-hmm. Someone who's just, unrealistic, hey, there's probably not a deal here. I need 4-bed, 2.5-bath house for, $300,000 with a pool. Not going to happen.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You're wasting your time.
And then is there a deal here with me? So one of the big red flags that we try to spot here is if somebody hits you up and they're hey, I just want to pick your brain, right? And it's hey, you just want my opinion. You have a favorite, but you're double checking me against somebody else, right? Which is fine. There's a certain amount of doing that. I do, preach to our team, hey, it's not always bad to be the second agent in. Stuff happens. It doesn't work out with everybody. And so, hey, is there a deal here? Is there a deal here with me? Is there a deal here with me right now, right? So learning how to spot those red flags and also the green flags. So every client that comes to us, basically prior to meeting with us, I tell people straight up, I'm hey, our most successful clients will come into the office for a buyer consult, or they'll have us out to the house for a listing appointment. And prior to either of those appointments, we send them a Google form, which kind of, gets a lot of the stuff out of the way. And now we're starting to try and digitize and sync down our listing appointment process. Right now, this is what Mary Kate and I were talking about. Our listing appointments are somewhere around 90 minutes right now. We're trying to shorten that down to 60. So trying to, just get our scripts out and stuff and be able to send it to people prior so that way they can review everything. Hey, do you have any questions? That's why it's like a more productive meeting.
Yeah.
You know, not necessarily, you know, half hour pleasantries, half hour looking at the house, you know,
Yeah.
half hour like, hey, what's this process, right? It's like, yeah, here's everything. So streamlining, you know, have an agenda there. So yeah, we work 100% by referral.
And your position to be the favorite there, I guess, is like the long, like
Yeah.
what you were saying. If
Yeah.
you were Realtor.com, you're more positioned to be the fool.
Correct.
Like,
yeah.
So-
Yeah. And there's no knock against that. Like, there's tons of different ways to do this business. Like,
I mean, we're huge on Realtor.com. Yeah, that's a lot of our business, but you're right. It's the same.
yeah, and it's like with me and my life, like I try to, you know, live a life by design. I got 2 kids. I, you know, got other responsibilities and stuff going on in life. So like if Realtor.com lead comes in at, you know, 4:45, I'm at pickup. Like I can't pick that up, right?
Right,
Yeah. Or
yeah.
I got 2 kids screaming in the back seat saying, you know, where's mom at? And I'm like, guys, like we're going home to mom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to like answer this call and just like,
Yeah.
you know, be driving dangerous out there on
Right.
the road, right? So
It's you need a whole business plan built around those leads, like,
correct.
and
Yeah.
it's tough.
Yeah, and like, you know, I got started in the business working for, you know, Jared Bowers, and like he was strictly expired withdrawn listings. So, you know, that's a whole different way to run the business. But
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, we try to, you know, work by referral. We do a lot of events, and, you know, we just try to do our best to stay top of mind. Social media, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So what got you into real estate?
I had no other options. I had no other options.
Lacrosse, you know, was doing good, right?
No, lacrosse is not doing well. Yeah, so I'm not originally from Delaware. I'm from right over the state line, Delaware County, and played lacrosse at 2 schools in college, High Point University in North Carolina for 2 years, and I transferred to UD. I played, you know, 2 years, realistically a year and a half. I had some injuries, and like I literally had a phone call with Discover Student Loans. And my mom was like, yeah, you'll just take out more. And Discover's like, no, like you're maxed out. And I was like, Mom, like I'm done with school. Like I'm done with this. Like I'm just going to figure it out. So I stopped going to UD in 2015.
So you're going there out of state?
Out of state.
So that was expensive.
Super expensive, yeah. Still paying for it. And we'll be paying for it for the next like 10 years. So
It is what it is.
We'll pay it off, right? Yeah, we'll see. But at UD, I met my wife, Mary Kate, and she didn't really know what she wanted to do with her life. I had no idea what I wanted to do. So she got a job opportunity working with a developer in Newark, Delaware, Jeff Lang Development Group. And I got a job working at a golf course caddying. So we, you know, finish up June 2015. She starts her job down there. I start caddying. Caddying goes through, you know, end of October, November. And I finish up, and she's like, hey, like, what are you doing, you know,
For work.
What are you doing?
Yeah,
I was like, well, the golf course opens up in April, so I'll go back in April. She's like, it's November. Like,
right.
What do you mean? Yeah, and I was like, you know, I guess you got a point, right? I guess you got a point. So she got me a job working at her company. I did a couple stints there. Just was a maintenance guy, so handling maintenance calls, doing like trash runs, just odds and ends. You know, hey.
But you're around the biggest property management, or, you know.
Yeah, biggest fish in Newark, Delaware for sure, and was just like learning a ton. Long story short, we looked at a house together. It was actually listed with Kathy Melcher, Coldwell Banker.
Yeah.
It was a hoarder house. My guy was like 87, had like dementia. He had his Christmas tree up all year round. It was like one little, you know, lane to weasel your way through his house. And it was right on UD's campus. And we put in an offer, and we didn't get it. There ended up being 3 offers on the house. We didn't get it. House right on UD's campus, which like I have like PTSD from like when we first got in the business, like prices.
Yeah.
This house went for $232.
Wow.
And I'm like, this is a $400,000-$500,000 house now. Like even in a
That's
crappy
crazy.
condition. Yeah, it was right on Park Place, like Prime Street in Newark, and it was $232. And we missed out on it, and we were all upset. And Jeff like sat basically everyone down in the office, but he sat me and Mary Kate down, and he was like, hey, like I started my career doing that. I can't do it anymore. Like it's not for me. I like what I do now, but you guys should do it. So I was like, all right, cool. And then I looked into it.
You should be a realtor?
Yeah, I should be a realtor. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I looked into it, and I looked up pre-licensing class. I called Keller Williams, like they had one, Delaware Institute of Real Estate or something like that. Delaware Real Estate Institute, REI. And I called and he was like, hey, like I think we're full. And I was like, I can give you a check like today. And he goes, okay, you give me a check today, you can get into this class. So that was like right around Christmas time. And I did like a 3-week, 4-week intensive course. So just went to school every day in January, got licensed. And yeah.
So you got started and you worked with Jared doing expireds?
Yeah, so I started as a solo agent at Berkshire Hathaway.
Okay.
Yeah, so I started
That was
there.
when we met.
Yeah, so that's when we met. So the golf course was shutting down in 2018, so this is 2017 now. So the golf course I knew was shutting down in 2018 for a full year for renovations. So I was like, all right, I got one last year at the golf course. Let me do this real estate thing part-time, and, we'll figure it out. So I worked every day at the golf course, stacking up money, and I hustled a handful of deals my first year, a couple sales, a couple rentals, a couple referrals. And then it came time, January, 2018. I was like, all right, I'm a full-time real estate agent at 24, 25. What does that mean?
Yeah.
I was going in to the Berkshire office on 202 and I don't know. I was a lost puppy.
Yeah, that was the same as me. It's tough.
Yeah.
You go in, you're like, I'm dressed up. Like, what's next? I'm ready to go.
Right? Yeah. And I was a little lost puppy. And so I met with a guy named Steve Lloyd out of Westchester. And he was like, dude, you got to get on a team. I just knew him. He was one of my dad's friends, so big into real estate. And he's like, you got to get on a team. You got to figure something out. So meanwhile, I started the Buffini classes where we met and stuff. So I was getting a little bit of traction going there. And I remember I just had a super basic social media strategy. I would post a Delaware house on Tuesday nights and a Pennsylvania house on Thursday and something else on Sunday, real estate related. And my phone started ringing. I was like, all right, cool. This is kind of working.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to write contracts though. I don't know anything.
Right.
And so I finish up the Buffini, and I met with a handful of different teams and people, and I just picked the most radical guy, which was Jared. And I worked for him for 6 months, and it was great. Learned a ton. And I remember I did a 90-day stretch where I sold 13 houses. I put 13 houses under contract in my first actual year in real estate, and I was like, whoa, this is wild.
Yeah.
And then the Jared thing ended in November. Went around and interviewed a handful of teams again. I went with Kat Duralis at EXP for 2 years. I was there and learned a ton from her as well too. Good and bad. COVID happened. It was an interesting time. I just bought a building that I was renovating, and the world shut down. So I briefly went back to Lang for 2 months during turnover season, just figuring out some stuff. And then I knew I wanted to leave Kat, and I did a deal with Madeline Dobbs, who's a Compass agent. And so she introduced me to Compass in July. I looked around again at a handful of different places, but Compass kind of stuck out to me. And I joined Compass in 2020, November 2020. And from there, we've grown, the Garman Group, and it's been an exciting ride.
Yeah.
It's a wild ride. Yeah.
Would you recommend that most agents that were in your situation, so basically you go into a brokerage today, if it's a big box brokerage, you're kind of on your own.
Yeah.
They might be like, hey, we have a training in 2 weeks, come, you should come to it, right? But if you're on a team, would you recommend every new agent joins a team, that advice you got?
Yeah, 100%. Definitely at the start. Just in terms of having support and other people to talk to, where you don't feel you're bugging people. So sometimes maybe I felt I was bugging Mike Wilson,
right.
His office was right next to me, or Phil Berger was in there, Dennis Malore, Blair Helmick, Tony Vandegrift, when I was just a young agent, they were definitely helpful,
right?
But it was just and Jen Coolish, she was my mentor, she was great, but it just felt everybody was just kind of individuals, whereas a team, I feel the environment that we've created with our team, one of my favorite things that we do on our team is everybody gets paid out on every single transaction. So it's not a ton of money. It's $50 to $100, but that way, there's no awkward, oh, I need to Venmo you for doing that showing. Oh, hey, could you cover that home inspection
That's cool.
for me sort of deal. So everybody feels a common goal,
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
When we celebrate a closing, like everybody
Everyone's
gets
winning.
paid out
Yeah.
on it, some greater than others, but everybody's getting paid out on every single transaction. So
That's
it definitely
awesome.
creates like a team, environment. And with that, I tell these guys like, hey, use the buddy system, take somebody else to your showings, like, work it together, because it can be a lonely business.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I never want to, feel that like, lone wolf.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel it a little bit now, like I'm venturing into new territory, as like kind of how our business is set up is, this business is tough, and after 8 years of doing it, you can get burnt out. So I definitely get burnt out from like servicing the business.
Mm-hmm.
So hey, who are the utility providers? Like,
Right.
hey, what's this furniture?
Yeah.
Is that staying here? Like all that kind of stuff,
Right.
right? Yeah. So when you have 10 to 20 houses under contract at a time, like that's a lot. So having other people be able to like service the business has been great. And now I'm just looking for ways to be like, all right, like how do we sustain this? Like how do we make this, profitable for everyone? How does everyone, like doing this? And then, you add a couple kids and life into it, and buying houses, starting other businesses.
Right. It gets exciting again.
Yeah. It gets a little exciting again, a little nerve-wracking.
You're like, I wake up every day not knowing what I'm doing.
Correct.
Learn 10 more things, get more confused.
Correct. Yeah. And like that's like the funny part of this business. Like literally had a settlement on Wednesday, and we sold a house to an investor. And he's a builder in the area. And I was like, hey, dude, I drove past and saw your sign here. Like what's going on with it? He goes, I'll sell it to you right now. And I'm like, all right. An hour later, Mary Kay and I are looking at potentially a new house. And I'm like,
yeah, it moves
what
quick.
is going on? Yeah, I drove back from the shore Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. And here I am at 1 o'clock in the afternoon being like, hey, are we going to move our 2 children into this house? Like, how are we going to pay for this?
Like, am I packing my summer clothes away, or are we moving to that house?
Yeah, so you never know what you're going to get into, which is exciting. It's definitely exciting.
Yeah, I love it. I wouldn't be able to go work a normal career. But so there was a period where you were a new agent, right? And then there was a lag period before you started doing those 13 deals in 90 days, right? What do you think, like, what were you missing then? Like, what did you change to get there?
Honestly, I would say like bravado. So just like confidence. To be like, hey, like
I know what I'm doing. This is going to work. This is what we do now.
Yeah, pretty much. So I definitely tell people, fake it till you make it. Post, like you can post up houses. Now you just need to tag like, hey, listed by so and so. Right. But like, I don't even think people, number one, see that. Number two, do they really care? Right?
Yeah.
Because like they're looking at it, on your feed, and you just want people to start, associating, hey, when I see a house, I'm going to call Vince Garman, right? And so, just having that confidence to be like, hey, and, the willingness to go out there and fail. So, how you learn in this business, and I think the best way to learn is experience. Like now I've trained all of our agents, hey, you got to ask the closing questions at every single, showing, because I didn't ask them one time. And the dude texted me 3 days later and was like, hey, like, I wanted to put in an offer on that house. And I was like, dude, I thought you hated it. And he goes, hey, I need to work with another agent. I got fired at 7 o'clock in the morning, like rolled over, and like the dude fired me via text. And I'm like, well, this sucks. Like, I thought I was going to sell this kid.
Might as well go back to bed.
I'm like, what the heck's going on? Yeah. I was like, dude, like, yeah. And so now we ask them, after every showing, we ask them 3 simple questions. And like, it doesn't need to be overly complicated. And like, I'm not a huge like salesy guy or like sales script guy, but we ask 3 closing questions at every single one. Number 1, do you like the house? If they say no, say screw it. Yeah, we're out of here. Right. Yeah. If they say yes or like some sort of indication. Number 2, can you see yourself living here? Yeah. If they say no, then you're done. Yeah. If they say yes, then hey, is this the house you'd like to put in an offer on? And that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
I think that's from Buffini, right?
I think it is too.
Yeah, because I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, it's a super basic script. You just need to say those 3 things, and the people's reaction will tell you all. From there, just be a normal human being and just have a conversation with them.
Buffini was telling that story, and he like said something about like this surfer dude. Remember, wanted to put like buy the guy's dog or something.
Yeah, dude, I'm negotiating cats right now.
Are you kidding?
I'm negotiating cats right now. Yeah, so we're selling a house in Middletown, and the seller texted me, and she's like, "Hey, I'm having a tough time getting rid of my 2 outdoor cats. They just stay outside and eat the field mice."
Right.
And so I went to the buyer's agent, and I'm like, "Hey, look, she wants to like leave her cats," and she's like, this is where I get burnt out from like the servicing side.
Right.
She's like, what are the vet records? Are they good with kids? Are they declawed?
Exactly. It's
I'm like, lady, do you want the outdoor cats or not? Because like, I almost wish I didn't tell you. And we just sold the house. And like, hey, you have 2 random cats who live here, but you don't have any mice in your house. So
you got to have outdoor cats if you're living like that.
I'm literally negotiating cats. I was on the golf course yesterday negotiating cats. Yeah. I don't even know these cats.
I hate to say this publicly, but like some people, I just stop answering them on some things. I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
You're going to answer that question like yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was talking, guy who I played golf with yesterday, my good buddy John Allen, he's like, I think the world of him. He's a genius sort of deal. And he's like, he runs a logistics company. And he's like, I'll have customers text me directly. And he's like, I tell them when they set up, like, hey, here's your account manager. If you have any issues, reach out to her. Obviously, you can always reach out to me, but it comes a certain point in time where when you run your business as the favorite or the fool, like the people are going to wait, like they're not necessarily going to get upset with you. They know you, like you, trusted advisor, all that jazz, right? Where, they're comfortable talking to a Cole, a Connor, a Jade, somebody else, Joni, our transaction coordinator, right? So like they understand, and like I'm CC'd on the communication. If it goes unanswered, by the end of the day, I'll get back to them, sort of deal. But 9 times out of 10, the problem's going to solve itself.
I couldn't stand to if I had to do transaction coordinating. I don't know if I'd still sell real estate because I just can't do it anymore.
No, it's wild.
It's too much, and
it's wild.
And people, it's so emotional for them. That exactly we're selling furniture or whatever. For us, it's just okay.
Yeah, can I get the grill outside?
Yeah.
Sure, I'll leave it for you.
Yeah. Wait, do you know if it's propane? Is it 3 burners or 2, right?
Yeah.
But, all right, cool. So I don't want to get hung up on that. I think you already touched on this, but like,
let's hear it.
What's your advice on an agent who's, got their business at that 5 to like 13 mark and then scaling that? Like, what do you think is the next step for someone in that level?
Yeah, so, and this is, I would say, part of it as well, too, because, like we're, cheesy cliche sayings, there's so many in real estate, right? But, if you're not growing, you're dying, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, like, here's my fallback plan. Say all my agents leave sort of deal. It's me and my wife, and we go back to selling, 20 to 40 houses a year, probably make the same amount of money.
Yeah.
My nights and weekends will look a little bit different. But, maybe I have less headaches, right? So that's like my worst case scenario plan, right? Most recently, like year to date, we've sold and settled 78 houses year to date.
Nice.
Last year we did 76. The year prior we did 84. So I'm like, all right,
Sweet.
Cool. Like 3 years of consistent business like this.
Right.
How do I get, to that like 120, 150,
Yeah.
So that's where I'm thinking about right now. And I think it comes back to, I read a phenomenal book called Who Not How by Dr. Ben Hardy, and I think I need to reread it.
Yeah, I think I read that.
Yeah, and so, like for me, I scaled up when I brought in some help, and my first help was Cole Cyber. I was like, dude, I'm super slammed. Like he did a couple odd jobs for me in like 2019, early 2020, and I told Mary Kate when I went to Compass, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna bring on Cole, and so Cole came with me. And like I just remember like be like, hey dude, here's your Excel sheet, like track your hours, I'll pay you, know, every 2 weeks via Venmo.
Yeah.
We'll figure out, some sort of bonus structure, and we'll sit down in 3 months again and evaluate. And so like having that help to not face the burnout. So like things that he did for me, hey, can you go to this home inspection? Hey, can you meet this contractor here? Can you drop this check? Can you run this sign? Just doing all those like little tasks like that, those $15 an hour tasks. At that point in time, it was 10. So that stuff really helped. So that's what I think is like the biggest thing. And it's weird. And like I had some business experience prior. I string lacrosse sticks. So that was like my
Nice.
first business I ever launched.
Yeah.
So, God forbid the real estate thing doesn't work out, I'll get back to stringing lacrosse sticks for
Right,
a
there
little
you
while,
go.
figure something
Yeah.
out, right? But I remember at one point in time, I had so many heads strung up that needed to be strung, and I needed to bring in some outside help. And my mom like kind of chirped me, and she was like, "Hey, like, don't they want them strung by you?" And I'm like, look, they're coming here for a stringing service. I'm bringing in somebody that I trust to string up these heads. Like, they,
They're good.
trust the brand, right?
Right.
Yeah, so they trusted, Keystone Strings. That always like kind of felt weird. And like now looking back at it, we like to, it's a Compass entrepreneurship principle, like maximize your strengths. Like Cole was really good because he was so green, he didn't know anything like that. So like he was able to just communicate to me all the questions and just be like, hey, like this is what they thought about it, or like no, dude, they hated all 3 of those houses. I'm like, cool. I didn't spend 2 hours driving all over God's green earth to show these people, 3-4 houses, right?
Right. You spent $30.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So scaling that up. So like I've talked with, and this is where like having the team aspect has been nice, because like I had this conversation with Jade, and like I'm like, hey, like, you made, X amount last year. What do you want to make this year? Okay, cool. Like, you probably need to invest, $10K in your business. Like, that's a person, right? Don't think you need to, buy something for $10K.
Right.
But like, you need to like save some of your time. So that's probably, a showing assistant, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say that that's the biggest thing that helped me. And I think what we're trying to figure out right now at, that grander scale of, 80 to 100 transactions a year, like, hey, how do you get to that, 100 to 120 to 150? For us, is the next jump is probably some sort of like director of sales, or like some sort of like ISA, or like somebody who just like mines our database a little bit better.
Yeah. Because I think you have a lot of untapped potential there. Just not in a bad way. I went golfing with you that day, or we went to that BMW event.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Vince, I think you might know every single person in Delaware. Like, it was to the point where Corey and I were standing there. We're like, all right, like every 10 feet, you were like stopping and having like, it wasn't like you were like, oh, what's up, man? They're like having a 5-minute conversation. Like you knew them well,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what like I love. Like, I love meeting people. I love playing, the name game. I love, golfing. I love, having a good time sort of deal. And I think that that's what the best agents, that I want to model my business after do.
Yeah, just building those relationships more.
Yeah, yeah. And I just look at like a guy who I try to model my life after a little bit is Steven Matola. He's fantastic at that. He'll go out to dinner, and probably every single dinner he goes out to, he closes 1 to 3 deals off of it.
You think so?
100%. Yeah, he's just
that's
insane.
crazy.
He's an absolute machine.
Wow.
And it doesn't even feel like work to him because he's
hanging out with people he knows. He likes them.
He's been doing this for 30, 40 years now. That he knows. Oh, XYZ owns that house, and they want to move here. Oh, boom, done.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah. So,
exactly. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Like if you put yourself in those positions, you're gonna definitely do a lot more deals. And I think people listening, I think the first easiest thing to do is like people spend between cleaning their house, cutting their grass, like making their food, grocery shopping. You can leverage all that stuff out so quick and easy, and just use. The key, though, to making more money is you can't just leverage all that out and do nothing. You have to leverage all that out and spend your time making money,
Correct.
But you can only do that once. Then you're like, all right, shoot. Now, I'm sure there was a point, like the same thing with the lacrosse sticks, where you said, all right, well, I don't know if my clients want to work with, is her name Jody? Is that who you said, the transaction coordinator?
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like that? Like, have trouble letting go of it, or no?
No. And like I now, after doing this for 8 years and stuff, you can tell who are the ones that are going to need more hand holding, and also like who are the ones that I need to redirect.
Right.
Like because I try to look at our business like a business, and if it's Friday at 5:45, like, are you calling your surgeon Friday at 5:45? Like, are you calling the 5-star steakhouse at 5:45 to get a reservation? Like, if it's an absolute emergency, sure, I'll handle it. But you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
It's all like subtle nuances.
Setting boundaries and stuff like that too.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have any systems or habits that were important in growing your business as a newer agent?
Yeah. I would say the biggest thing that I still, like, if I ever get out of a funk, the biggest thing to get me back in the funk, like back into the business, is I look at the MLS every single day.
Nice.
So that's, 15, 20 minutes. I won't do it on the weekend, so I'll do like a 3-day look back on Monday.
Just the hot sheets?
Yeah, just the hot sheets.
I love that. Yeah.
So, and number one, like there's a lot of real estate coaches out there. Ricky Carruth, he says all the time, he's like, dude, there's plenty of business to go around and houses are selling every day. All you got to do is look at the hot sheet. So like, that's like what kind of like reminds me of it, is like, hey, someone's going through a death, someone's going through a divorce, someone's just had a kid, someone just got a job promotion, right? And just looking at the houses just reminds me, like, all right, cool. Like, I don't need to sell, all 20 houses on this hot sheet. Like, goddamn, if I had 3 to 4, like, that'd be nice, right?
Right.
And, if I had 1 to 2 on this one, 1 to 2 on this one, I'm like, okay, cool. So just looking at it and following the market trends, I would say is my biggest thing now that like kind of keeps me going, keeps me motivated. And then as a newer agent, like, I started doing that because like you got to know the market.
Yeah.
So you got to look at it. So that's a Tom Ferry thing, I believe, is checking out the hot sheets.
I used to check out the hot sheets every day, and it just got away from me because it gets to the point where like, there's 3,000 on there, and you're like, oh no, I just got to restart. Like if you don't look for a week or so.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. So I would say like that's a big thing. And then other things that were like super awesome in terms of like we use Dotloop, and I definitely finagle Dotloop. So Dotloop don't come for your boy or anything, stuff like that. So we all use one login. We all have our own. We all have like, it's the Vince Garman login, but like it's the team Dotloop. And so if you're out on a showing and people are indicating writing an offer, you just text a group chat, hey, can someone prep an offer for me? And everybody can hop in there. So
that's
me,
great.
Mary Kate, Connor, Cole, Jade can all just hop in there, do the offer. And so that way when you come back and you sit at your desk, it's like, hey, like, oh my God, like the seller's disclosure is already loaded in there, client's information, like everything's on their bubbles, and I just need to go through and double check it. So, just
that's
being able
huge.
to move fast like that is huge.
Yeah.
And then the biggest thing is the Google Forms that I would say have transformed our business. Like, it gets so much of that, awkwardness out. Who's your lender? What's your price point? How many beds? How many baths? Where do you want to be, right? And having that filled out prior to a conversation is great because I can be like, okay, cool. Like, they don't know where they want to be. They just said Newcastle County, or they just said Delco. And it's like, okay, cool. Are you guys familiar with Delaware County? Like, hey, in Delaware, we'll search by like area/zip code. In Pennsylvania, we're going to search by school districts. Like, that's how people, really look for houses. So, you're able to tailor the conversation to fit them better.
100%. We're moving on from the new agents. I think we've got a lot to them. Oh, one thing I was going to say is we use the Google Sheets too, and we make keyboard shortcuts for them, and that's crazy. It's like, I just, before a listing appointment, we'll send it to them, you get all the info,
Like the
Google Forms. Google Forms, I mean, yeah. And I meant to tell you this earlier, but I didn't want to stop you. We recorded our listing presentation, and then we can send that before the listing.
Yeah.
So
that's what we're trying to get to.
Yeah, I'll send you mine if you want to look at it.
Hell yeah.
But I sat down and me and Shane went through the whole entire thing, like pricing, X, Y, and Z. And then when I show up, I don't present at all. It's like a 15-minute.
Yeah.
It's like a 15-minute listing appointment.
Mm-hmm. It's huge.
Okay, great. So now we've moved through the new phase. Agents looking to start a team. What advice would you give to those people?
I would say you really gotta make sure that that's what you want to do.
Right.
So half of the Steve Shull coaching and training and stuff is like, do you actually want to do this? Because it's way different. That's where sometimes maybe I get in my own head sort of deal about it, but managing and running a team is it's completely different. And my management leadership style, I would say is very relaxed sort of deal. So I can't force you guys to do anything.
Right.
You either want to do it or not. And how you tell, if you're being successful is if there's money in your bank account or not. Like,
right.
So, if you're following the steps that, after a couple of years and stuff like that, you understand, what we got going on for the vast majority of stuff in real estate. It's like, hey, do you want to, like step out and do this thing on your own and be responsible for it? Or do you just want to, stay here, continue making, great money, having a great life sort of deal? So in terms of like starting a team, I look around at a lot of teams, and like what Steve says a lot is like, hey, a lot of teams are just like team in name. So, there's either one person at the top who's like crushing it and everybody else is kind of like support staff sort of deal, which I don't really like because like I don't need, my name out there sort of deal. I talk to the team all the time. I'm like, I wish we could just be, the Trolley Trends team or something like that.
Yeah.
Like selling Delco, right? Those guys, I'm a big fan of those guys. So like having that brand versus like my name. But yeah, in terms of like starting a team, like it's a lot. Like, it's a lot. Yeah. So like starting a team, having an office, like it's a lot of stress. Like and like when those guys reach out to me, like yes, they get like an immediate response if they reach out at 7:00 at night or something like that. Like I would say in terms of like starting a team, like you definitely have to, have good people around. Because like if you have a bad egg, like that's gonna seep through the company culture. I think my wife and I have a good balance. I also think like in residential real estate, the spouses selling houses thing like works. Like, there's a lot of, husband-wife teams out there. Or, various partnership teams out there. And so I definitely think that works. And I think we have a good yin and yang because my wife is most definitely a workaholic. So, like if she gets an email, like she has to respond to it or like a text message. Like she needs to get it off her plate where I can just like let it sit. And I'm like, oh, yeah,
right.
Yeah. So I think that helps, having a good business partner. So that way I'm not, in this thing, 100% on my own.
Right.
Which is huge. And then it's just like there's so much that goes into running a real estate business that I just didn't know until, now, 4 years later running a team, like coming up, this November. So I would definitely say, if that's what you want to do, like go for it.
And know why you want to do it too. Like, why do I want to do this?
Correct. Yeah.
What am I building here?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like funny, like I hinted at it at the beginning. Compass has, they call them, affinity groups. So, there's a couple that we're in, like I'm in NCAA athletes at Compass. I'm in Married at Compass. And Mary Kay and I went to a dinner at Married at Compass. And all the spouses, when they went around and did their introductions, they all said, hey, we used to have a team, now it's just us. We used to have a team, now it's just us. We used to have a team, now it's just us. And like, our daughter helps us out, or like we have an assistant, right? And like, we were looking around like, okay, like, if it all falls apart, like that's what I talked about at the beginning, like, Mary Kate and I are still a team.
Right.
So even if like you don't want to start a team per se, like you still have a team behind you in terms of like, a sales manager, your go-to attorney, your go-to home inspector, your go-to mortgage lender, right? So leverage those people like as your team at first. And then, if you have someone, I would say it's got to like make sense. So I look at just locally here in our market, Diane Salvatore. So her and who is it? Shayna Del Calo at Patterson Schwartz. Yeah, like they were similar. They both had kids at the same point in time, and they were, hey, can you watch my kids? I got a showing. Hey, so like that's how they like formed their team. Sort of deal. So you got to find someone that aligns with your interest, and then you got to
find a couple different models. Yeah.
You got to find someone, team member or not, like whatever their role is, that you're going to get along with, that you can, I'm in the office for 4 or 5 hours. You're next to me as well too. Like, are you going to be mad I'm playing, Chris Brown radio? Or do you want to listen to Drake today? Like, what do you guys want to listen to? Right? Oh, hey, dude, the Phillies are on at 4 o'clock. Like, I'm putting that on. Are you going to be upset?
Yeah.
So, finding someone that you jive with, I don't think I necessarily would do anything, too different in our team. I love our team and what we got going on. I'm super proud. All of our agents at one point in time, through the various years have all hit 100K, which is awesome. And they've all, bought real estate.
Nice.
And dabbled in that. So yeah, I would say with us and like what we're doing is like I've definitely got people who are super green, so like new in the business. So I haven't brought on any like experienced agents or anything like that. Nor do I think I really want to do that. Whoever this next person comes in, if there is a next person, will definitely have to fit and jive with the whole crew.
Right.
And so like we've dabbled in that. Like we've had interns come in at various points in time. So we just had our summer intern, Steven. He was fantastic. And, just seeing how the team, reacts and vibes to him. And honestly, we kind of miss Steven right now. So he's back at UD for his senior year.
Nice.
You
got to recruit him when he gets done.
Yeah, 100%. So
that's great. And with all, like, I love how you said it, because it's very hard. Like, you need to make sure you want to do it, but at the end of the day, it seems like you love it, and you love everyone on your team. So yeah, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, like
if that's what you're going after.
Correct. Yeah. So like perfect example is like I had a referral come into me. They came in Wednesday night, got pre-approved, and they wanted to go shopping in PA, and they both work 9 to 5. Like, I have 2 young babies at home. Like, I see them for a couple hours in the morning, a couple hours at night. Am I going to meet these people in Aston at 5:30, hang out with them for an hour, drive 20 minutes home, maybe catch 5 minutes of bedtime?
Yeah.
No, it's like, hey, Jade, please,
Boom.
Sell these people a house.
Right.
Shows them,
It helps her as well.
Yeah, 5, 6 houses, writes 2 offers, boom, they get the second one accepted. And now it's like perfect. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So, moving through that, what are some new trends or ideas in the market that you think agents should be paying attention to, or is there anything you guys are doing differently right now?
In terms of like what? Do you have any examples or what?
Not really. I mean, I know, were we just talking about doing something on Instagram before this?
Like adding people as collaborators?
Yeah.
So, I think like it's one of those things that I wish, do you ever wish that you started doing this 4 years ago?
Yeah, right. I do.
Yeah. So it's just trying to figure out, what that next thing is and like what it is going to be. So like in terms of like trends, I feel like YouTube is a super untapped potential platform.
Especially in our area. There's a lot in our area that's not tapped into with agents.
Yeah. Where like I've seen it done successfully in other places sort of deal. And like Mary Kate has a client, we sold this guy a commercial building in PA, and he runs, he runs a radio station, and it's all like Christian hip hop music.
Right.
And like this dude's crushing it. And I'm like, we were over there the other week, and I was like, dude, can I ask you a question? And he's like, yes. I'm like, how much do you plan? Like, what are you making off of like your YouTube? And he's like, I'm going to make somewhere between like 250 and 400,000 off of YouTube this year. I'm like, for Christian rap radio? He's like,
wow.
Yes. And like, he was dead serious about it and like showed me the stats and stuff. And I was like, people would love that. So I would say one thing that I wish I want to do, and it's ballsy for people, but like, I would just love to have, my own, selling Trolley Square real estate show. Like basically just a freaking like reality TV show. Like
all the time.
Yeah, like all the time. Like literally like the Kardashians. Like
yeah.
Go
to a listing appointment and you're like, hey, this guy just follows me. He's fine.
Yeah, right? Yeah, like he's fine. We would definitely have to come back in and do like a faux listing appointment afterwards or whatever. Yeah. For TV and stuff. But yeah, I think like some sort of like, like I would love to have like 5-10 minute episodes of, hey, this is my
That'd
life
be so cool.
over like October, November. Right? Yeah, so like some long form stuff, because I think a lot of the stuff that we see is a lot of like short term, where we were talking like when people see our brick background, I'm sure like some people just scroll right past it, right?
Yeah.
And so like that short form stuff I think is good like you got to have it in the repertoire. But I think like people do kind of crave some like longer form stuff. So, who's actually going to listen to this? My wife, my mom, like I don't know what your guys' stats are, but like our stats on like our podcast, like the actual podcast listens and downloads aren't huge by any means, but I think, you just got to keep doing it, and eventually, hopefully it pays off, right? But like our reels, do kind of pop off. So I think that like there is some like longer form, and I just feel like this generation is coming up. Like I look at like my nieces and nephews who are like 10 years old sort of deal, and like they don't watch TV, they watch YouTube.
Yeah, right. They don't even look at the TV. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, and I was actually thinking about just cutting the episode, and we can go start doing Christian rock right now if you want.
Christian hip hop.
Christian hip hop. Yeah.
Yeah, Christian hip hop. He crushes it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, there's a ton of things like that. You got to figure it out. You're right, a few years ahead of time. So, do you have any advice on how your agents teaching them like how to stand out in a crowded market like that?
Yeah, so that's where it goes back to, I guess, what we started out with is like the favorite of the fool. So like the best people that are going to work with you, and like I kind of got this advice I bought a house earlier this year, and it was my first time ever really raising like outside capital. And so I went around, I talked to a lot of people that I used to work with, people that I respect and stuff like that. And the biggest piece of advice that I got was from my girl, Adrienne Casale. And she's like, hey, like you need to find people who like aren't going to like questioning you on stuff. So in terms of like standing out, I don't think like you need to stand out.
Just go after the people that already like you like that?
Correct.
Yeah.
And just make sure that you're top of mind there. So in terms of like standing out, like I think that there's so much business to go around, and you don't need to do all of it, but you need to do what you want to do.
Right.
And like for me, that's I don't go downstate. Like I'm not a slower, lower Delaware guy. Jade likes to go down there. She's got a house in Lewis. Connor will go down there because he's still in that like grind hustle phase of his career. But like that's not like where my people are, sort of deal. So
right.
I'm trying to get more so like back into PA a little bit more. To just go back to the roots, sort of deal.
Yeah, I'm with you. So what you guys do the monthly Third Thursday event? Mm-hmm. What made you want to start doing that? And then like, would you? Is there any hidden benefits to that like agents might be able to take and like use? I mean, you get referrals from it, like
a ton. So with that, like we're in the process of trying to like revamp our events sort of deal. So when that first started, like we were coming out of COVID, and like happy hours like went away for a little while.
Yeah, I think people needed that. Like I used to look forward to going to that. It was fun.
Yeah. So and like now maybe like the newness of it has maybe like worn off, sort of deal. And like with those things, like they work if you work it. So like we brought in sponsors, which was great, which like took the financial responsibility off of us a little bit. But like I was a little upset with the sponsors because I'm like, hey, like you need to bring in like your people as well too. Like you got to market it to you. Like you can't just send over your logo and have it just
and
be
a couple $100. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, so like we actually need you to like invite people, sort of deal, because that's where the magic happens, when you get people in the room who don't know each other, or like maybe they do know each other. When you get a bunch of people in a space, something's going to happen, right? Hopefully something good. So for me, what I use with our events is like there's so many people who hit us up for business, and it's like, hey, like I don't have time to sit down and do a hour-long coffee or lunch with you. Hey,
that's
you come
genius.
to this event, right?
Yeah, come here and we can talk. Right.
Yeah. And I would say we've used it a ton in terms of inviting past clients and doing, client appreciation events. Is like I could get in, 5 to 10 5-minute meetings with people where they're like, hey, we're thinking of selling, or hey, this is what we got going on. I have a friend who needs to reach out to you. Wanted to stop by. Like I didn't want to like just call you randomly. So I'm like, call me randomly. Yeah. So I look at it as like, if I could get 5, good 5-minute meetings out of it, like that's how I look at it.
Nice.
And
with agents, you don't mix your like clients into those parties, do you? Or you do?
So
Like the ones
Like,
that we go to. Like you invite the agents to the ones, right?
Yeah.
You invite your clients to that too?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that's just, a whole...
I did that once. We had a Christmas party with all my clients and all the realtors, and it didn't work out very well. No. Realtors got like way too drunk, and people were falling over, and
Too funny.
it was a mess. Yeah.
Too funny. But yeah, we do have a client appreciation event coming up. So the last couple of years we did Blue Rocks.
Awesome.
So we didn't do Blue Rocks this year. This summer was just crazy. So we're doing Ramsey's Farm.
Okay.
Which would be exciting. Yeah.
How do you get I feel like a lot of people show up to your guys' events. Like, are you calling them individually? Do you have them on a drip campaign, or you just text that flyer out?
Yeah, I would say we hammer them via email and text message.
Okay.
It is the biggest thing. So, so Ramsey's Farm, it's 40 people to a bonfire. We were hoping to get one, and I think we're up to 80 people coming now, so we just had to get a second, which is pretty cool. So with that, I'll say we'll email them 3 to 4 times, and then we'll all go through and text, all of our people,
awesome.
2 to 3 times. Yeah.
Cool. What we started doing is Shane, our videographer, he goes around and gets video reviews of our clients.
Yeah.
So,
hell yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, you should try that out.
Yeah. Do you go to their house or what?
No, at the client party.
At the client party.
So I give him a stack of Wawa gift cards at the client party. I say, hey, he goes around and hands them out and asks people for,
yeah.
Hey, do you want a Wawa gift card to do a video?
Hell yeah, that's amazing.
All right, so you guys aren't really doing much lead generation. You're doing more just basically working your sphere of influence, people you already know. Already answered this question. Should you focus more on online leads, referrals, or networking? We've answered almost all of our questions. Where do you see the future of real estate heading in the next 5 years? It's a tough one. What's the meaning of life, Vince? I got a good one for you, all right?
Yeah.
What's one piece of advice you wish you could give yourself when you first started?
Mine's probably just unique to me, but I changed my phone number from a 610 number to a 302 number, and I wish I never got rid of my 610 number. So I'm sure that there's so many people who hit me up who just
You should call it and see if you can buy it back.
Is that a thing? You can do that?
I mean, call it, see who answers.
Yeah. 610-800-5255. Should we call it right now? Yeah. Do a live call. Do you think anybody would answer?
You never know.
Yeah.
What would you be willing to pay them for it? $1,000?
$100.
Subscriber you have dialed is not in service.
Not in service.
So you might be able to buy it.
Just get it back?
And I think we got the numbers, so if you don't hurry up and buy it, we're just going to buy it. I'll send them to you as a referral.
But yeah, piece of advice, don't be afraid to buy your neighbor's house. So I wish I would have bought one of my neighbor's houses. It sat on the market there for a while. I'm sure I could have figured out something with it. Now having bought, 10 or so houses, I definitely know how I could have figured it out now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I could have bought my neighbor's house for a 3% interest rate or something like that. That would have been great.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. So, but yeah, figure out those closing questions a little earlier. We talked on that in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And maybe going back to me, I don't regret either of the 2 teams I was on. Had an opportunity to go with, different people, and I don't know, what life would have looked like. But maybe, just kind of sit down and really think about it a little bit more in terms of that. Yeah, I would say biggest advice, don't lose all those contacts. Don't forget anybody, right?
Yeah.
So I wish everybody every morning happy birthday on Facebook. That's a super simple way to just stay in touch with people. So because you never know who's going to hit you up. I've sold houses to people that I haven't talked to since literally pre-K.
It's crazy, isn't it? And that's just because of social media, really, right?
Yeah. It's no time's passed because we keep up on socials, and you're able to just hop right into a conversation with people. So yeah, maybe would have brought my wife on a little earlier as well too.
Yeah.
She's great.
Yeah.
But no, I don't really have any regrets. Yeah, no.
That's awesome. Yeah, for sure. The last question I have on my list is, could you share a success story of an agent on your team who started small but has now seen significant growth?
Yeah, I will give a shout out to Connor Tutzlow on our team. So Connor just hit 100K.
Awesome.
He's under contract to buy his first house in UPG right now. We're super excited for him. And deals can literally come from anywhere. So Connor, while we're not licensed in Jersey, Connor helped facilitate a transaction for his uncle earlier this year in LBI. And so he's down on vacation and he's like, hey, I'm going to show my uncle a house. I'm like, knock yourself out, dude. Like, go for it.
Yeah.
Right? So like he calls up the agent and he's like, hey, I'm in town with family. Like, they want to come look at the house. And so he shows it to him. And like, I'm not thinking anything of it. Like, I might have been on vacation or whatever.
Yeah.
So then, like, a couple weeks go by, and he goes, I think my uncle wants to put an offer on this house. I'm like, okay. Like, he goes, what should we do? And I'm like, well, like, we're not licensed in Jersey, so, like, you know,
we'll just get it.
Yeah. We'll just get, like, a referral. We can go with someone from Compass. And he's like, the person's, like, a builder, though. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, why don't you send me this address, dude? So he sends me the address. And like, they're like a couple like steps into this like negotiation process, like putting together a contract.
Right.
And like his uncle like has the contract to review and stuff like that. He sends it over and it's listed at $3.6 million. I'm like, why didn't you tell us your uncle's like looking at a house like this, dude?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the sales price ended up being like 4.2.
Wow.
And like they had it listed on the MLS. They saved a little bit. They were paying out 2.5%. We got a 40% referral. So
awesome.
like, you know, they saved $50K. We got a check for like $50K. I was like, holy smokes, dude. This is insane. Went down, we saw the house a bunch. It was awesome. So,
that's cool.
You know, shout out his uncle for sticking with him. And I think that, you know, when you get something like that under your belt, you're like, I could sell North Wilmington. I could sell Pike Creek. I could sell, you know, anywhere because you sold literally a $4 million house down the Jersey Shore.
Right.
So, yeah, we're super proud of Toots. He's been hustling, grinding. I would say one thing that we have all of our agents do, all of our agents hustle rentals because, you know, we're young. People are going to rent houses. Rentals are eventually going to turn into buyers. So we work with a couple developers downtown that Connor put in the work. And I think like when you put in the work, you definitely get rewarded. So Connor's handled upwards of 50 plus rentals the last couple of years.
Wow.
And,
he's moving.
Yeah.
That's
so, you know, we're very proud of him. Yeah.
That's awesome. I called them before this and they gave me a bunch of questions to ask you.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
I mean, they helped me with like them and ChatGPT helped me make these questions.
Did you actually call them?
Yeah, I called Jade.
Nice.
And she was like, hey, I have everyone here. I'm like, oh, okay.
Sweet. That's hilarious.
Even better. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah. We love them. They're great. Jade watched my kids last night. Cole was literally like an uncle.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's like a little brother to me. And they're all family. Yeah.
One of the big questions like I get from our agents is they're like, I don't know how to juggle having and raising kids and being on the fly with real estate all the time, right? I mean, they can't leverage a team really, but I guess they can leverage each other, you know?
Yeah. And I would say like that's like the, you know, main part of it. So in terms of, you know, leveraging the kids, like our kids are in daycare now, which is expensive, but like when I break it down, I'm like, okay, like each of my kids is getting watched in the grand scheme of things like this for, you know, $8 an hour.
Right.
It adds up because it's, you know, 40 plus hours, whatever it is, right? A week.
Is it that much? Wow.
My daycare bill is like $2,700 a month. Yeah. It's nuts. It's nuts for two kids. Yeah, it's like basically $700, $750 a week. Yeah.
Wow.
Whatever it is. And so, you know, that's a huge, you know, motivating factor to get to work, right? But in terms of like leveraging the kids, they all help out. And like I would say, number one, you know, make sure your kid's cool because nobody wants to watch a bratty kid or like someone who's like not cool, right? So like we do have some clients who bring some kids to showings, and I'm like, oh god, I gotta hang out with this guy. Like, you can't even give me a fist bump yet, do you?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, or like, you know, he's all scaredy cat. So make sure your kid's cool. People will want to hang out with them more, watch them more, and
or send it back.
Yeah. I think just be authentic. Like, you know, like
Bring your kids to showings?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Murph was definitely a closer. You know, she came to a lot of listing appointments when she was in her carrier and stuff like that. My mom stepped up and watched my son a lot. But yeah, Murphy was a closer.
That's awesome.
And yeah, just get them, you know, indoctrinated into the business. The time's like short. Like literally, my daughter's like almost potty trained right now. So like, I'm like, where did my like little baby go? And
that's
like,
crazy. Yeah.
Like pretty soon, like I'm gonna be able to like take her to a showing and just be like, hey, sit right here and color, and like she's gonna listen and do it. Yeah. So. Yeah, I would say don't be afraid to just, you know, be yourself. And, you know, if you got to drop them off somewhere, drop them off at your house. Yeah, have them go crazy.
Yeah, they can drop them off here. Well, I was thinking, we have 4 pregnant people here. That's why we had to reschedule our other podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at what point could we, like, have an advantage by starting a daycare here? Like,
I literally think you could.
I'm like, okay, like, and we have, like, 4 other people here who have kids. I'm like, what do we charge? $700 a week per kid?
Mine's it's like $300 a kid, like $300 to $350 a kid.
Wow.
Yeah,
and I mean, we could cut you a good deal.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But yeah, honestly, that's not a bad game plan.
You could literally buy someone a house and be like, "I'll pay your mortgage, $2,000 a month, but you have to watch my kid."
Yeah.
And you'd be saving money.
I would.
That's crazy.
I would. Yeah, I need to buy my sister a house, I guess. Yeah.
There you
Have
go.
her watch my kids.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's it.
Sweet.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming. If you guys enjoyed the show, please share it. If you made it this long, you are a trooper.